A warm welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle tonight. Delighted to be back in our normal and customary Monday night slot with Mark Stallard and Chloe Page. Welcome to you both.
Evening.
Hi, Paul. You're right.
Yeah, just that was water, Chloe, not vodka. We do get the alcohol police onto us for when you was on the Bex or the Stella last year. Tonight we're asking, who is the most indispensable player we have got to get promotion this season? Who is the one player you think we can least afford to lose? Your thoughts on that? Chloe, Stell and myself will be putting forward the player, each of our players. Each one of our three is different. Want to hear from you on who you think the single most important player to us getting promotion at the end of the season. Southend put to the sword 4-1, a handful of points between the top six. Your thoughts from Saturday. What do we think of Jayden Richardson, the Nottingham Forest debutant? Very impressive. Had a hand in one of the goals. Where's the FA Trophy in your list of priorities? It's Altrincham on Saturday night. Racking my brains, I cannot ever remember a Saturday night game, a proper Saturday night game. We've had the 5:30 kickoffs, those sorts of things on BT. Can't ever remember a full-on Saturday night game. Can you? Anyone else out there? We don't like to look ahead more than one game at a time. A little sneaky look ahead to Chesterfield, 8 days' time. And sadly, yes, Ruben Rodriguez will miss that one. I just checked with the club today because there seems to have been a bit of conjecture about that. He is suspended. Ruben doesn't play at Chesterfield. Plus news, Mark Ellis, remember him, had a brilliant 1 hour interviewing him this afternoon for our latest one-on-one podcast. Some great stuff, winning mentality, doing what it takes when you cross the line. It's a great 60 minutes. It's about the first time Mark's done anything like that. Really, really interesting and illuminating, an insight into a warrior, an old-fashioned warhorse of a professional footballer. And we've also added Connor Parsons to the Magpie Circle five-a-side team. Our player sponsorship portfolio now comprises Richard Brinley, Connor Parsons, Lewis Knight, Kieran Brennan and Anthony Patterson. I hope if he comes back, the club aren't going to charge me twice for Patterson coming back on loan. We shall have to wait and see. So without further ado, let's just get a few points from people out there. And already there is a lot of them. Where are we? Gary Wardle, good evening all. We can only beat what is in front of us, but can we appreciate Southend were one of the worst teams we are likely to meet all season? I disagree with that. I thought first off, I didn't think they were bad at all. I thought they had more possession than many of the other teams that have come to Meadow Lane, but it's all subjective. It's all a viewpoint. We ran out comfortable winners in the end. Royston, the Cop and the family stand looked half empty. Sadly, yet there were 6,000. Well, I think that was down to 1,000 of Southend fans. Ian Birchnell, evening all. Chris Gosling, happy Monday, everyone. Gareth Jones, is that confirmed that he misses Chesterfield, or would it apply to Altrincham game? Chesterfield. Altrincham is set of a different rules with it being trophy, not the EFL. And we're getting one or two thoughts coming in. David Shorter, the most indispensable player we've got to get us promotion, Matty Palmer. Chris Gosling, Palmer hands down really, but Kyle Cameron is becoming more valuable as the season goes on. Shane Walker, Palmer without a doubt being our main man all season. Right. Okay, well, let's get straight into the meaty debate. We're going to Chloe first. So, Chloe, who is your single most indispensable player that we have got?
It's a difficult one because I think we've got a spine of probably 4 players that you take one of them out of it and we don't fall apart, but it'd be a massive blow. For me, it's between Wootton.
Get off the fence. Bloody hell, who is it?
Probably Rodriguez.
Go on then, Ruben. Yeah, go on because.
Yeah. I just think that he adds the flair. I think, don't get me wrong, you talk about Wootton and his goals and his contribution during the game, But if it's a bit of a flat game, if it's looking like it's going to be a draw, I think our flair is coming from Ruben. So I think he might be the difference between getting playoffs and actually winning them rather than getting playoffs and then coming second again.
So you are obviously, because there is some conjecture, albeit without, to be honest with you, any concrete foundation at this moment in time, although there have a lot of been scouts there. You are clearly not wanting to see Ruben depart in January.
No, I don't think personally that we'd be able to replace him, especially not in January. January is always a difficult window. No one wants to give up their best players in January, and they only go for the right price. And I don't think we'd be able to afford to replace Ruben. Obviously, if you're talking millions, then yeah, we can replace him. But with the money that we'd actually realistically get, I don't think he's replaceable in January. And it's a different story in summer when you have a bit of a mix up, but not in January. I don't think we can afford to lose him.
Mr. Stallard. Now then, are we going to stick with the goal scorers union? I think we might. Come on, who is your single most valuable player to us at this moment between now and the end of the season?
Right. Well, I wouldn't disagree with what Chloe said about the spine of the team. 3 or 4 players that are you're looking for the most indispensable, which I'm going to say is different to who, if you were asking me for a player of the year at this point, I think I said on the last one, I would go player of the year, I would go Matty Palmer. And I can see some of the comments now, and I know a few have named him. I think he's been the best player consistently for us, but weirdly, the most indispensable is what you said. And I would go Kyle Wootton. And I would go mainly because of his goals. And we don't have backup for that. You know, I don't see a natural replacement in the squad for Kyle Wootton at this moment in time. You know, Kyle Cameron, the skipper, has been brilliant, but we've got cover in defence. Maybe not for his goals and maybe not for quite as well as he does. You know, he's certainly first choice. Ruben, I think Cal could potentially cover for him if we lost him. By the way, I don't want to lose any of these players. No. It would be a massive loss. But in terms of if we didn't have Kyle Wootton for his goals, but also for his hold-up play, that big target man presence, the heading he does in both boxes, I think that is a heck of a replacement, heck of a hole to fill. And I don't see us having that, you know, polyfiller, if you like, in the squad at this moment in time.
Very good. Okay. I'm going to go at the other end of the pitch. I'm going to go Kyle Cameron. For me, and clearly there is a very powerful argument for all of the players that we've mentioned. And I think being realistic for us, certainly to get top spot, then I think we need all of these players. I'm not sure we can afford to lose a Ruben. We can't afford to lose a Kyle and Kyle Wootton. I would go for the other Kyle. I would go Kyle Cameron. And I just think that what he brings to us at the back, both in terms of a threat at the other end for set pieces and also his stature at the back, I would go Kyle Cameron. Statistically, when he's missed games, we have lost a very high percentage of them. And as you know, I am very, very results driven by these things. And clearly we have, from a point of view of collecting points, found it much harder to collect them when he has not been here. So I would go Kyle Cameron. And I think it's a pretty much a split across a variety of people. Chris Gosling, Palmer hands down, but Kyle Cameron is becoming more valuable as the season goes on. Shane Walker, Palmer without a doubt being our main linchpin all season. Chris Gosling, that said, I wouldn't fancy not having Wootton available. I'm sure none of us would. Max Seth, Kyle Cameron, we haven't lost when he's in the team. He's a leader and a danger in both boxes. Ian Birchinall Close says, we'll see against Chesterfield if Ruben is the key player for us. Chris Gosling, Rodriguez is an away day player, rarely scores at Meadow Lane. Right, okay. Benny Boy, Kyle Cameron is indispensable. The 3 games we lost, team fell apart. His leadership at the back is irreplaceable, and him chipping in with a few goals too. Craig Simmons, good win on Saturday. Hats off to Southend for their support, by the way. Ian Birchinall, Palmer is the most important player at the moment. Max Seth says, even though the players are important, I believe the wing-backs are the most important positions, especially with the system we play. A.D. Clark, who's up there in Chesterfield, winner of our Kel Roberts shirt competition earlier this season. Evening all. Seeing the recent video of Ruben boxing. Yeah, Richard, I can't pronounce the surname, the boxer at Loughborough Uni. And the camaraderie between him and the rest of the players. Ruben will be a massive loss, both on and off the field. Chris Gosling, Cameron doesn't need set pieces to be a danger. He pops up in open play attacks regularly. Royston, Kai Cameron is a rock. Look at Torquay since he's gone. Okay, mixed bag there. We're coming to January still. Do you think we can afford to lose any of our senior players, or do you think there can be juggling taking place? I mean, as it stands, Notts still hold the cards. So although Kyle only has 6 months of his contract to run, and although he can sign a pre-contract somewhere else, he would carry on playing for Notts County unless Notts release him. Ruben is under contract for another 18 months. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, obvious answer is no, we definitely don't need to lose certainly any of the players we've mentioned there. Does that mean to say it won't happen? Well, if the price is right, obviously, then you can't not say no. But they would only do, I mean, given all the data, all the analysis, they will back themselves to have ready-made replacements to bring in. And certainly if they're given what they would have to be given is a fair amount of money to part with any of them players. I think you talk about Kyle, and I know Charlie mentioned it in his post-match interview with him on Saturday, coming out of contract at the end of the season. To me, it's something me and him have spoken about a bit. And, you know, that is a big concern, obviously. We know that scouts are circling, not just for him, but they're coming to Meadow Lane. But that's what happens when you've got a winning team playing good football with good individual components in that team. But I wouldn't think Kyle Wootton is the only one they're looking at. I wouldn't think Ruben is the only one they're looking at. I think scouts come because they know there are probably 4 or 5 apples on the tree that they might look to pick at. And, you know, they're mainly the players that we've spoken about, plus maybe 1 or 2 others as well. Can we afford to lose them? I would think not. You know, I would think not, because, you know, we're not top of the tree at the minute. Are we? We're to the top 6. So we're nearly, but we're not quite there at this moment in time. Take a main component of that out, and that obviously knocks us down, knocks us further away, you would imagine, and puts a heck of a lot of pressure on the replacement. And the replacement would have to come in and hit the ground running and be an unmitigated success right off the bat. So certainly don't want to see any of them go. Don't think any of them will go. I don't know. I just get the vibes that the club is not, as long as they're up there with a chance of promotion, I don't think, barring, like Chloe says, a ridiculous offer that they can't turn down, I don't think they're in a position. They've certainly never given the vibe that they're a selling club. But again, like we spoke about before, until you get that firm offer from a club, that commitment, it doesn't really test the water. It's all right, you know, saying the right things, thinking about what you're going to do. But when an offer comes in that January window, which they may well do, then that's when we'll find out just quite what they're made of.
Chloe, younger fans' view. What's their take? Do you think you will be absolutely gutted to lose any of them? Do you understand the mechanics of football and the transfers or whatever comes in? The opportunity cost of weakening your case to get promoted. There's clearly a value to going into the EFL rather than staying in the National League. What's your view?
I think the general view is irreplaceable. I think, obviously, like we've mentioned, money talks, and it would have to be a lot of money for them to consider most of the players selling. I think there'd be very few players they'd be willing to sell in January. January is such an important month. It's just gone halfway through the season. And while you're fighting for that promotion place, why would you sell anyone when you're giving yourself that chance to get a playoffs, go up? I mean, you've got to kind of weigh it up. What's going to be worth more to you? The opportunity of going up and what that'd do for the club, who we'd attract next season, the money we'd gain from going up, or the instant money that you'd get from selling a player. For me, you can't put a price on going up. Keeping all of the players doesn't necessarily mean we're going up. So it is a difficult one. If someone kind of put a lump sum on the table and go, take that now and lessen your chances of promotion, or don't take it now and take the chance that you are going to get promotion with the players that you've got, it's a really difficult one. We've spoke about silly amounts of money, and I think if you're going to get ridiculous, then you've got to take the lump sum. I mean, I think you'd be silly not to, because especially when it's not kind of definite that you're going to go up, for the future of the club, you've got to kind of take a big lump sum. But I don't think we'll be getting anywhere near the amount of money that would make us financially stable for a while. I know we've obviously got very good owners and they've made some very clever moves and, in my opinion, spent the money in the right places. But then again, getting a lump sum could potentially mean we get someone like Shamanga next season, because we can afford to pay that lump sum and pay his weekly wages. But for me, it'd be a case of not selling anyone. I'd rather take our chance with the players we've got. Don't get me wrong, invest in a couple, maybe like loan players. I still think there's room for like deepening the squad. It's always great to have someone to come off the bench. But for me, the players that we've got now, as long as you don't lose any of them and we don't pick up many injuries, I'd be taking the hit and hoping that what we've got will take us up. And I wouldn't be taking the money personally. And like Stallard said then, we don't look like a selling club. I mean, it's a different story in the summer, when everyone has a mix-up. But in January, I wouldn't like to see any of them go.
Ian Birchnell says, I don't understand the logic of not having had talks with Carl Wootton yet. Chris Gosling agree. Ian Birchnell has raved about Woot since day one. Strange not to have done something in the summer, unless that was Kyle's choice. Jim Airy, out of everyone in this league that scouts are looking at, surely first pickings would be Shamanga. That would be a massive loss for Chesterfield. Ian Birchnell, Chris, but then the club would say that if that's the case. IB has said that they'll talk when it's right to. Surely that was before now. Gary Wardle, I agree, Stell, unless it's a ridiculous sum, none of them will go anywhere. And other clubs have equally good players being looked at and don't see Notts needing the cash that much. Chris Gosling, at the end of the day, January is a seller's market as teams pay over the odds in desperation. M4 says, sell Ruben at the end of the season and get in Tarver and Campbell. Dale Pikett, do we really need to sell our star players? And I think, Dale, for me, that gets to the heart of it. We talk about improving players. We talk about a sustainable model. We talk about the owners being worth an awful lot of money. And having money to, I was going to say invest, but I think still we know that's a loose word when it comes to owners putting money into football clubs.
Right, yeah.
But I think I guess the point here is, and I saw an interesting tweet from a fan when he said it is going to depend on the tolerance of our fan base as to the model of the club selling on their best players. Now, I'm not even sure that is the model because I've never actually heard the owners say that. So I wonder whether we're doing a grave, or some people do a grave disservice to the owners. But for me, your primary objective has to be to sign players to move up the footballing pyramid. Certainly when you are a club of the stature of Notts County in the National League. Fair point or not?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I mean, all clubs don't compete at a professional level to stand still. You know, it's always to try and progress. Now, that's not always about, moving up. You look at Premier League teams who are just happy to stay there, but it's still about progressing the club, developing the style of play, whatever it might be. And for Notts, I'm with you. It's only conjecture. We're only speculating because, as we mentioned, the club haven't, as far as we're aware, received any offers for any players. So we don't know well, they're certainly not a selling club at this moment in time, because they have received offers. They've not sold anybody. So at this moment in time, we could be a very non-selling club. They maybe just don't want to go public with anything that's come about so far. So, look, a lot of stuff stays in-house at a football club as well. That's what you've got to bear in mind. So it's only speculation that we're even, they will even entertain offers for players. And again, until we start getting into silly amounts of money, they might deem, what realistically is somebody going to pay for a Kyle Wootton, a Ruben, a Kyle Cameron from the National League? You might, sort of jokingly, we're talking about millions of pounds, but I think, Shimanga went for, we think, 265 grand, top goal scorer, proven goal scorer. Somebody in the league might pay something like that, maybe a bit more for a Wootton, maybe a Rodriguez, I don't know. But goal scorers obviously generally command more. But think about Chesterfield. Are they fending off, offers for Shimanga at this moment in time? Come January, have they got a question to ask themselves? If somebody comes and offers, 19 in 20, 18 in 20 games, whatever he's got this season on the back of what he's done previously, there's a league team likely to chuck £500,000 their way. Double the money, probably even more than that. Now Chesterfield will have a decision. So this always happens in football. You speculate what players are worth. You speculate what other clubs are going to do. I think the main thing and the only thing that we care about is that Notts, who have given us no indication through the owners that we're going to sell anybody at certainly less than what the value is, and they've made no inclination or made no intimation that they're going to sell any of the key players, and that they have to sell any of the key players. So from that perspective, I would expect a fairly quiet January in terms of players going out, but also, should they have an offer lined up that they've, they'll be in talks for weeks as well, potentially, or they'll know about things for weeks because agents get involved, as there'll be rumours, they know who's on the scouting list week after week after week for tickets. So it doesn't necessarily come out of the blue. Obviously, the offer might, but there's a lot of chat goes on behind the scenes and build up to a transfer, usually, particularly in January, because you've got a build up to it. It's not quite the same as when they used to have the old transfer window. So I would think that, not as far as selling, I think it'll be, no, I don't think they will. I don't think there's going to be enough. With Kyle Wootton having 6 months left of his contract, I don't think any club's going to pay enough for Notts to go, oh, we need to cut our losses now because we're going to get nothing in the summer, potentially. And as for anybody else, well, they're under contract, and then they can sell when the time is right, or when they deem the time to be right.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, Stella, in the sense that for all Kyle Wootton's attributes, and they are considerable, his actual transfer value in January, with 6 months left on his contract, which all clubs obviously know, I think his actual value is relatively minimal that someone would pay. I mean, I know some of our flock on here, you see a lot of conjecture. I think people are thinking, it's 200 grand for Kyle Wootton in January. Not a chance. Not a chance with 6 months left. You're probably looking 50 grand, 60 grand. Because clearly the club thinks, well, I'll get him in the summer anyway because he can do a pre-contract. So I'm not sure his actual monetary value to the club is going to be that massive. But what I want to understand from you as a striker yourself, what do you think is going through his head? Do you think it's not inconceivable that Notts are having talks right now with his agent, his representative, and might produce a rabbit out of the hat and say he's done a new 2-year contract? If you were, did you ever make transfer errors from your perspective? Goal scorers will always command interest, won't they?
Yeah.
Put yourself in his mind. We've seen a lot of big name strikers go for the money quite clearly, dropping out of the Football League. I think it's realistic that if Kyle Wootton is going anywhere, it's back into the Football League. Yeah,
you would imagine so, unless another of the non-league clubs are going to absolutely break the bank and offer him, treble the wages, which is not beyond the realms of possibility. Look,
but at this moment in time, Stel, as Notts, you wouldn't sell, because that's what all the Premier League clubs, they don't sell to rivals, do they?
Of course not. Of course not. But again, if the money's right, they might have the hand forced. So it seems. But you'd like to think in that scenario they'd wait till the end of the season, but obviously losing for nothing. Look, let's just say right from the bat, this is just my speculation, and let's say you want to just from a football perspective. I would be absolutely amazed if the club have not already spoken with Kyle.
Yeah.
Not that they'll say it publicly, but I would be absolutely amazed that that's not happened. And then talks could have gone any number of ways. Kyle, and again, only speculation, via his agent, of course, but could have said, look, he's going to have an offer that's better. He's going to go into the Football League, and there's no point announcing we're having contract talks because he's not going to sign an extension. That would be possibly worst case scenario, because he's had a better offer, a Portsmouth, a Sunderland, or something like that, that, you know, they're sat pretty, you know, League One, going to offer him loads more money, and he's going to potentially have made his mind up. Hope that's not the case. He could be saying, look, no point speaking to me now, because he wants to keep his options open come the end of the season to see, A, what division Notts are in, B, what financial package Notts can offer, and see what's out there available on free, which is his right to do. He will see his contract out, which is loyalty, which is what you sort of get as much as you get in loyalty in football these days. And then he might legitimately say, look, I'll look at all the offers that come in the summer in a bid to push up what they're going to offer him. Let it be a Dutch auction. Let people throw money at him. Who offers him the most, or whatever he sees as the best overall package may win. Or he may be going, he may say, look, I want to concentrate on the pitch. I'm loving it here, but I just want to concentrate. He knows he's not going to be short of offers. So he's not banging down the club's door in terms of quick, get me signed up because I might not have a job at the end of the season. He knows he's got offers elsewhere. But he might, exactly like he says, say, look, just want to concentrate on football, get to the end of the season. I love it here. If I still love it here at the end of the season, I will speak with the club. The club have obviously got to reward him. They've obviously got to, and then it's down, then the ball's back in the club's court. You've got to increase his wages and maybe put him above anybody else in the club in terms of wages because of what he's done over the last 2-3 years. You always get sort of rewarded on what you've done in football, not what you get. Nobody knows what you're going to do, but you get rewarded retrospectively, if you like. He's had 2.5 great seasons, 3 great seasons, and he will get rewarded, whether that's at Notts or whether that's elsewhere. But he will get rewarded financially, definitely. So then it comes down to what is the overall picture that he wants. Does he like the fact he's got a good rapport with the Notts fans, that he's settled, he's a big player, he's been given responsibility here. Let's face it, you've got to go to a massive club to play in better stadium, better setup, better history of a club and all that. But it's whatever, Kyle, I say to anybody, what's your motivation? What is your driver? What is your goal? What really gets you? And if it's, being somewhere where you like the lads, you like the football, yes, you've got to get paid accordingly. Of course you have. But he might just prefer that. And with Notts, he might just say, look, I want to be a Football League player. Make no bones about it. I want to play in the Football League. If we get promoted at the end of the season, then I'm happy to sign a contract. And it might be, if we're still non-league, then I'm going to look elsewhere. There's so many possibilities, but the bottom line, I'd be amazed if they've not made that initial. If they haven't made that initial contact, I would be amazed and got that feedback and that rapport going and say, look, speak to the agent. Look, the agent gives it. Look, this is where he's at. I'd be absolutely gobsmacked if that's not the case. But like I say, again, only speculating. But knowing football, what sometimes gets said isn't always what always happens behind the scenes. So, but I certainly hope, it doesn't distract, whatever the outcome is going to be, it doesn't distract from the next 6 months of football, 6 months that we've got, because we need him, because he's a massive player for Notts, and we need him, even if he's going to go at the end of the season, we need him to score 15 goals between now and then to win headers in both boxes, to hold the ball, to play well, do what he can do to help get Notts promoted. And if he gets Notts promoted and then still has a better offer and goes elsewhere, then I'm pretty sure everyone will go, well, thanks for what you've done. You know, you move on with our best wishes, and we'll find somebody else. But we're in the league. That's the bottom line. That's the biggest thing, because no one player is bigger than the club's ultimate aim, which has got to be to get back in that football league. The individual components we worry about, or the club will worry about when that happens.
Lots of comments coming in. Max Seth, I think Wootton is looking at the situation of possible promotion, a la your point just now. If Notts go up, he may sign a new contract. If promotion doesn't happen, he's gone. Gary Wardle, Pie, where are Notts going to get a Woots replacement for 60k? That was just a figure that I have, arbitrarily come up with in terms of a value, because he only has 6 months of a contract to run. Link is big. I'd like to see a holding midfielder do the dirty work. Palmer's been our best player and he's not playing his natural role. Saw briefly when Vincent come on and sat in that Palmer's position. One or two people asking about Lewis Knight. Not exactly sure. I know he had quite a bad hamstring, didn't he? A recurrence of that, but not quite sure where he is at the moment. Chris Gosling, what happens if Woods runs down his contract and then suffers a horrendous injury a couple of games from the end of the season? Not that I'd wish that, but there's still reasons to sign a new contract now. This is clearly a debate that is going to run and run. But Chloe, let us now turn our attention to Saturday, 4-1 against Southend. You're in the crowd. What did you make of it?
Well, I actually only saw the second half, so I probably saw the better half out of the two. So obviously I spoke to my family that were there. They kind of gave me the rundown of the first half. But I just think we controlled the game. Obviously, we need to get out of this habit of conceding. We're letting too many in. I know it's only one, but this season it's going to really, really massively matter on your goal difference. The points are that tie that it could come down to goal difference, whether that's getting a home tie in the playoffs, whether that's just missing out on playoffs. But that's what seems to get us going in a game. And it's frustrating. I know what Kyle said in his interview afterwards, that it seems to be that when we do concede, that's what pushes us on. But from what I saw, we let them have minimum chances, and then controlled the game. Even after the game was kind of dead and buried, we were still pushing on, which is exactly what you want to see. You never want to just kind of accept the 3-1 and that be it. Getting that fourth, I mean, we all laugh about having like a outfield player in goal, and it's always the crowd saying shoot from the halfway line. But you've got to have that kind of system in place where we've still got to play. We've still got to see this game out, whether you're 3-1 up, whether you're 5-0 up. And we played with professionalism. We didn't just shoot from anywhere. We played how we should be playing, no matter who the opposition, no matter who's in goal. And that's kind of what I want to see from every game. If we have the same setup every game, you're only going to kind of improve. And it was nice to see different players kind of come in and chip in. The new signing from Forest, I really like him. I think someone said earlier about the importance of our wing backs. That's our system, and we've got a lot of players that can play there. Don't get me wrong, and I know some of them are ill or injured, but for me, he's in my team on Saturday. I assume we'll talk about the FA Trophy in a bit, but for me, get him having game time no matter who the opposition, he fit right in. Again, we've had a talk about a few players that have come in on loan this season that have been able to just slot in really quickly, and that shows you everything. We're signing players that we're not just going for a name, or we're signing players that play how we want to play, and that's massively helped us. I think Parsons came on and played really well out of position on the left where Taylor was. I even thought Francis came on and contributed to the fourth goal. So we've now we talk about having this spine and how important 3 or 4 players are, but now we're getting everyone involved and everyone's chipping in with goals. And I know we say that maybe they're lesser of an opposition, but we've seen how many times over the last few seasons, and even this season, it seems to be these lesser teams that we slip up against. But it's great to kind of take the win, take a big win as well, and go into the next few games. Obviously, Chesterfield's going to be huge. We can tighten the gap to the top. Otherwise, it can start pulling away a little bit, especially with their game in hand. So to kind of keep us in the mix. And obviously, we've got a lot of games coming up. I know we're kind of, in my eyes, fortunate enough to actually skip a game over the Christmas break. I think it's the one between Boxing Day and New Year that we aren't playing. But there's still a lot of games to come up, and rotation's going to be massive. And we've got now loan players, and we are kind of deepening our squad. We've got people to come off the bench that are exciting, that can change a game and see a game out. So for me, the whole thing was really positive.
Thank you, Chloe. Stell, Southend, I guess, are a salutary lesson in whatever the size of your club, whatever the perceived stature of your club. Football's no respecter of that, and they find themselves in the bottom five. Fantastic away support, which many fans have commented on. We had Matt Shrimper, who's a leading football business journalist, who's a big Southend fan, travelled down from Macclesfield to watch the game. Had a bit of a chat with him afterwards. I actually thought they didn't look bad in the early stages of the game, and I thought they had quite a bit of possession. But it just shows you fine margins with football, doesn't it? If things aren't quite going, you get a little bit downbeat rather than a little bit positive. Because I guess you would say that the first goal, the equaliser they conceded, is an absolute howler and a nightmare from the left back, isn't it? And if you are the manager, having gone 1-0 up at Notch, you must be thinking, crikey, we ain't half let them back in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I must admit, Paul, I didn't think they were as good as maybe you're making them out. They first 20 minutes, you're right. I think we gave them a bit of a leg up with the goal, with a sloppy goal, soft goal, really. And that's one thing that concerns. I think Notts have just got to improve, still conceding too many soft goals where teams don't have to really work hard to score against us. But it's only a minor criticism. But in terms of Southend, yeah, you talk about stature, you talk about history of club, size of club. None of them things cross the white line when the match goes off. None of them things matter when the ball is kicked off and the 90 minutes play. And that is why they are appearing to be in free fall. That's why Notts are in the division that we are in at the minute, although thankfully not having as bad a time of it as Southend are. And we spoke to their Radio Essex guys who were sat just along the road from us on Saturday before the game and after the game. And afterwards I said, I'm genuinely concerned. Before you think, well, it's just a bit of momentum's going against them, they'll turn it around. Having seen them Saturday, they've got problems. Not that we're really bothered about it, but they have got problems, because what I didn't see when Notts got into the ascendancy, Notts were by far the better team, showed the quality, played some really good stuff at times. What I didn't see from Southend's players was too much rolling of sleeves up and really digging in and having a go. It felt like, well, it's just Notts can get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If they could put the quality together, it could be any score you want, and that notwithstanding the outfield player going in goal. It's a bit. I watched you might have seen was it the Liverpool Man U game a few weeks back, where Man United on paper look like a decent team, don't they? But on the pitch, they didn't want to kill themselves running. Too many stars who don't want to run and do the extra hard yards and what have you, and they got annihilated. And that's on a much lower level, but that's what I saw a little bit of with Southend on Saturday. It felt like maybe they've got 1 or 2 players who think they're better than the National League. Maybe they've got 1 or 2 who's maybe feeling sorry for themselves. But I didn't see too many players when they were 2-1 down, 3-1 down, 3-1. The goalkeeper, the outfield players going in goal, 4-1 down. I didn't see anybody really look like it bothered them. It looked like they were going to run and track. So Frank Vincent, for me, was the most energetic, lively, active player on the pitch for 90 minutes. And he's got that in him, and I do like that about him. I think he adds a lot to Notts for that. But I didn't see, Southend in the predicament they're in. You'd think, well, one of their players is at least going to match him running around. Didn't see it. So again, from a Southend perspective, I said to their fella, we said problems. You look like you've got problems, and and I say with an embargo as well, then they may well have. So, but again, that's not really our problem. Not too concerned about that. But yeah, I didn't see a lot of fight. I think is the real thing I saw from Southend. So good performance from Notts, but yeah, there'll be tougher tests, that's for sure.
Did we like Jaden Richardson, Chloe?
Yeah, I like I say, I think he slotted right in. Obviously got an assist. It's a great cross. Making the runs that you want them to make. I think not so at their best when our wing backs are making the runs, and we're kind of overlapping with the players further up the pitch. That's where we're at our best. I was speaking to my dad who watched the first half. Obviously, I missed that, and he was saying that's what we were lacking from Taylor. Obviously, we're used to kind of Taylor getting up there, putting a cross in. And I don't know why he took him off at halftime. Like I said, didn't see the first half, whether it was kind of like a tactical move or whether he got a knock. I don't know. But I think both of the wing backs, when Parsons came on, they're both adding something. They're both adding a bit of flair. I know we're talking about a lesser opposition here, and it's not always that easy against kind of your Chesterfield, your Bournemouths and so on. But he, like I say, he slotted right in, and he'd be on my team sheet for Saturday. I think more game time, and then see how we go from there for Chesterfield. But yeah, he's definitely a great addition. Like I say again, Connor Parsons, and I just think that they've really added something, and it's not kind of he's come here to play games, and that's what all lone players want to do, especially coming from Forest. That's what they want to see. And if we've got players that are coming to fight for their positions, which is exactly what we want, you want competition, which means everyone's got to be on top form, training, and in games. As one slip up and you kind of out because there's someone right chasing you for that position. They all want to be on the pitch, whether that's in an FA Trophy game or whether that's in a league game. I think they'll all be wanting to fight for the same positions. Like we've said, we've got quite a few covering the wing back position. But yeah, it's great to have competition, and yeah, he'd be starting for me.
Chris Gosling says the disallowed Southend goal, while irrelevant, was very bizarre. The linesman took at least 20 seconds to put his flag up. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we all noticed this, Stell. I am struggling to think where a linesman had physically just stood there motionless, and we're all thinking. Now, and I must admit, I should know more than this. It's one of my bugbears when people that host programs don't study the new rules and all the rest of it and say, in my day, it would never have happened. Now, I think they're connected, aren't they? All four officials.
Yes, they are.
With the walkie-talkie. So I don't know whether the ref's saying, are you sure he's not offside? I thought he was, but you've not put your flag up. So I don't know whether there was any dialogue, but he was literally just like that, wasn't it? And then he went up. It was quite bizarre.
It was incredible. Bizarre. It was incredible. I've never seen it. I said it on the radio at the time. I've never seen that. It was like a satellite delay almost, like a 15-second delay waiting for a signal coming there.
Oh. No sooner does Stell say satellite delay.
Talking of satellite delays.
You've got one on here.
Ghosts in here. Well, gremlins
right,
at Christmas.
The last bit we heard, Stell, was it was like a satellite delay.
Well, I say, if I could rig that sort of technical mastery up, then I'd be brilliant. But I definitely can't. Yeah, the gremlins in the system. It was just bizarre. The only thing, and I've seen it again today. The club have put it out. I think a highlights package, haven't they? I think the official site put out, and I did look again. The only thing that can justify them taking that amount of time for a flag to go up would be there were 3 or 4 Southend players in what could have been offside positions or not, and whether the ref was communicating with the linesman to say, look, do you know which one of them it came off, and was he definitely in an offside position? But even so, I mean, it wouldn't have made any difference to anything really in the game, but it was farcical, it was comical, and the conversation could equally just as easily have been the ref going, oh, help me here, and the linesman going, no, I'm not going to make a decision. Going, you toss a coin and I'll put my flag up. It was ridiculous, but, you know, it was offside. But Yeah, I've never ever seen an official take that long to put a flag up. It was ridiculous.
Max Seth says Southend looked like Notts when we got relegated. They were soft, not committed, and a team with little guidance or leadership. Yeah, probably. I think none of us will probably disagree with that too much. Okay, so that's. Well, by the way, Chloe, have you seen the little clip which I think is very funny? I think the club have put it out with when everyone talks about managers going fist bumps at the end of games now, don't they, and all the rest of it. And the manager goes over to the cop, doesn't he? And there's this little clip. Have you seen it of Vincent?
Yeah.
Going behind him, sort of mimicking it. Very cool.
But yeah, well, the camaraderie, like someone mentioned earlier, it's not just between a couple of the players; it's all of them. They come by the office every now and again when I've been there, and it's just really great to see. We've kind of been through. I think we'll all agree that in the past, between 5 and 10 years, there's been a couple of instances where it's been very divided. You can see that on the pitch without having to go in the dressing room. We could all see it. So it's great to have a group that want to play for each other and are actually kind of friends off the pitch. I think that matters massively. And they all love being here, and they'll all tell you that in every interview if you ask them, which is great to see, which means that for them, that is like we talk about deals a lot. For them, like Stallard says, I don't know kind of what all of their goals are and what is kind of the most important thing in their minds, but being somewhere they enjoy being, they enjoy living, and have a great group of lads around them, that's going to be a factor into all of it. So it only helps the club, and you can see it on the pitch. I mean, just little clips like that, it's just nice to watch. And it was nice actually to have a game where you thought, we're not going to lose this, we're all right, we can sit back, relax and enjoy it. And I think that's what the players felt as well.
What does that goal mean for Kel Roberts, Dale?
I think it'll mean a lot. I think his performances have been improving in the last couple of games, certainly. But I think he's one of them players, and I don't know him. Not really spoken to him. So he just appears like one of them players who, although he's not an out-and-out goal scorer, he loves putting the ball in the back of the net. He loves setting them up, but I think he'd be lying if he said he doesn't prefer scoring them himself. And he's got a fair few games without getting one, and to get one on Saturday, I think will just set him off nicely, and might well be well timed as well with Ruben missing the Chesterfield game, because Cal is what you look at as a bit of a natural replacement. He's that creativity, that spark, that X factor with a goal, with some improved performances. He's had a couple of assists in recent games. Just coming, hopefully bubbling back up to the boil in terms of his own individual levels of performance. And if that can happen, then all well and good. But I think the goal, will be good for him, because I think he is, like a lot of players are, particularly at that end of the pitch, a confidence player.
Yeah, I think we're all great to see. He actually did take it very well. When you watch it on the replay as well, there's a little bit of work to be done. When that ball comes in, he makes it look very easy, but it's that sort of drop of the shoulder, and in it goes.
Just on that, Paul, there's
a fair bit of work to do.
Yeah, just on that as well. What made it even better is just what we're saying. Having gone a while without a goal, when Kyle and Vincent robbed Nathan Ralph, the left wing back or the left centre off with a ball, and he squares it across to him. Would have been very easy just to have a go. I think it's coming at me right first time. Try and slash at it first time. He didn't. He had the wherewithal and the quality to have that touch, sell the defender who was diving across him, and then give himself a fairly easy task to put it in from there. But it would have been easy just to snatch at it, thinking, "Oh, here's my chance. I've not had one for maybe 10 games," and snatch at it and miss it, slice it, do whatever. But took it really, really well.
Goal scorers union, Stel, you appreciated that one. Mfo, does Chloe know how many we've sold for Chesterfield? Only 8 days away. Are we going to sell out? Have we sold out, Chloe?
I know we haven't sold out, and I wouldn't be sure on an exact number, but I'd imagine it's over 1,000 now. I know we've got kind of nearly 2,000. So
I didn't realize we've got that many. We've got nearly the best part of 2,000, have we? Yeah.
Not quite that much, but
yeah.
I know it's kind of that end kind of nearer to the 2,000 mark than the 1,000 mark massively. And it's always a great game. I mean, we've had our fair share of losses there when we've been. But if it's half an hour down the road, I mean, I don't, depending what part of Nottingham you're from, obviously. But for me, luckily, I'm that end, and my housemates are Sheffield Wednesday fans, so they're coming down for it because it's their closest ground. So yeah, I'm buzzing for it, and I know it's going to be one of the toughest of the season. But yeah, the Notts fans make it for me. We kind of pack out that away end behind the goal every time we go. So I'd imagine it's the same this season.
We'll talk about Altrincham in a minute and the FA Trophy still. It's a little bit like football in Beauty and the Beast, isn't it? You know, we would have quite a purist approach of playing football under Ian. Chesterfield would have quite a pragmatic, methodical approach. It's only 3 points, and there's 20 odd games to play. How important is this game as a marker?
Guys, it's very important, certainly as a marker. But Chloe alluded to it earlier on. If Chesterfield win, that puts them 7 ahead of us with a game in hand. So that suddenly, assuming they win, they're 10 points clear of us. Now, yeah, we've still got half of the season left, but that's a big gap, and we don't want that to happen, obviously. So it's a marker. I agree. You want to be beating the teams around us. Let's face it, there's only Halifax who are above us in the table who we've lost to. The rest are sitting around that mid-table area, the other 3 that we've lost to this season. So we've got a reasonable record. 3 draws and a defeat against the 4 teams above us that we've played. So I'd like to see 1 in the win column. I'd like to see what we think with Chesterfield at home. Weirdly, might just put the onus on them to take the game to Notts. That can work in Notts' favour because they're the way Notts like to play. But I'm expecting a really good game. One that is for certain. They are absolutely flying. Shimanga is red hot at this moment in time, so it's going to be a tough game. But I'm expecting a really tough game, and 2 good teams going at each other. What's not to like just before Christmas? And we take 3 points off the leaders and sets up for a good Christmas, don't it?
If you were kind of looking at, a result Saturday, you had a kind of, I don't know, the way Chesterfield grind things out, set pieces, and they've won 1-0 from a set piece goal. Won the header at the far post, knocked down blokes, followed it in from about 7 yards. So it's kind of like a classic Chesterfield approach to getting the 3 points. One ex-pro, not you, said to me, and he's seen most of the games, in every single game he's seen Notts play this season, Notts have done more than enough, and should have won every game. But we haven't. Chesterfield, statistically, if you're looking at their fixtures, have found a way to win a higher percentage of games and lose a significantly lower percentage of games. Unquestionably, we have the lion's share of possession in most games. We look good. We look good. What would you put that down to?
What, the fact that we've lost a few games where we should have won, would you say?
Yes. Yeah. Perhaps not got the points return that the balance of play would suggest we should have got.
Yeah. A few factors. You've got to put it down to a few factors. I think, and I've said it this season, I think there's still areas where we are a bit too nice, not ruthless enough. I use too nice in a derogatory term. It's
I get that.
Labelled as a football team. Not massively, and I'm talking nitpicking now because we are doing well with 4 points off the top. But I still think we haven't hit our straps. I don't think we're playing to our absolute maximum potential, and that can be a good thing because we've got gears to go up, I think, as a team. Why have we lost 4 games? Chesterfield have only lost 1. Well, Chesterfield have found a way of getting it done. And you always say, Paul, and I agree completely, football is a results-based business. It's all about the result. It's about getting it done. Doesn't matter what it looks like. We can talk about and dissect what it looks like afterwards, but you need to get the result. Get the 3 points and then worry about it afterwards. Chesterfield, credit to them, have only lost 1 game this season, in the league. We've lost 4. So we're just slightly behind in terms of that ruthlessness, that, what do you call it, real drive and determination and grit to say, we ain't getting beat today. We might draw. I think Chesterfield, they've drawn 6. They've drawn 1 more than us. And they might not have played as well as us this season. I can't tell you that, I've not seen them. But they're obviously playing pretty well to be top of the table. So it's looking good and losing, which is, you can go back to the Woking game, the Halifax game. I mean, the Halifax game is still ridiculous when I say it now and catches in my throat a bit. But that is just ridiculous to lose that game. And you would say that league winners don't lose them games. Now, Notts have lost them, and we could still win the league. So that would make a mockery of that. But it just puts additional pressure on to not let that happen again. And I think if Notts do have a slight chink in their armour, it is that we lose games against teams that we shouldn't. Simple as that. The 4 games we've got lost this season: Altrincham, Woking, Halifax, and Eastleigh. No, not one of them teams should be beating Notts. I know you do lose games. I know you can lose any game, but not if you want to be top of the tree. They've got to be pretty much about the only 4 we lose all season, maybe a couple more, but you can't afford too many slip-ups like that. We went to Grimsby and won. What a great result at the time that was. Grimsby at the top. I know they've come away from it since then, but you can't afford too many slip-ups. And that's what I was saying. Not, it's a banana skin for Notts. Said the game on Saturday was, and they navigated it well. But they've had banana skins, Altrincham, Woking, all them sort of games are all potential banana skins. The best teams just get the job done. And credit to Chesterfield, at this moment in time, they're the best team in the division because they've got the job done thus far. There's a long way to go.
Ian Birchnell says, so looking forward to the Chesterfield game with 2 top teams playing each other. Chesterfield know how to win ugly, so we have to be on our game and take our chances when they come. Chris Gosling, I can't wait for Tuesday either, Ian. Proper blockbuster and arguably the biggest fixture this division has to offer. Chris Gosling, Stell, can we agree never to mention Halifax again, please?
Yeah, done.
And ever the eternal optimist, Gary Wardle says, think the best Notts can hope for is a draw. I hope not. I mean, to be fair, Chloe, our best performances, best results have been against teams near the top of the table. For me, I know a lot of people debate the level of performance. Best result by a mile for me this season was 1-0 at Grimsby, even though you did miss the goal.
Can we agree to not talk about that one either? I don't want to speak about that. But yeah, absolutely. And I think possibly, again, with Stallard said, I can't possibly comment on how they've played all season because I haven't watched Chesterfield. Obviously, you've seen clips, but for me, a big thing is taking your chances. And Chesterfield and Shamanga alone is clearly doing that every game. So I think a massive bonus for us to take away is don't concede to a Shamanga goal. There's not many teams in this league that can say that. It's going to be difficult. And I think 2 of our biggest things this season have been not taking chances, clear chances at that. And because we create enough, we can all agree on that. There's obviously some games where we haven't. It's always going to happen. But overall this season, we've created a lot of chances and we probably should have scored more goals. And also, we're not doing it so much the last couple of games, but conceding from crosses and set pieces have been a bit of a downfall this season so far. So I think we can never be perfect, but if you kind of put 1 or 2 of them chances that that we should really be taking, and you cut a couple of them set pieces out, and then I think, we're already in the mix, but the gap would even be less than what it is. But like we've said, it's massively important that you don't drop points against teams in and around you. We can't really afford for Chesterfield to open that gap a little bit more, especially with a game in hand. I mean, you don't want to be pessimistic and say we're going to play for the draw, because we're absolutely not going to play for the draw. But would it be the worst result in the world? Absolutely not. I've spoke before about this kind of mini league, that you've got to come out in that top 2, top 3 in the mini league against all the teams around you, because you start dropping points against them, and that's where the gap opens up. So it's going to be an interesting one. And I can't imagine Shimanga's going to be quiet. So let's see if he can shake his chances against us.
Yeah, I mean, I do fancy us Tuesday. I mean, the one caveat I would put into that, and Estelle would know, I always bang on about this. My concern is set pieces. James Rowe puts a lot of stall by set pieces, to break the deadlock in tight games. That is, I think, the one little Achilles heel. But I think if Notts produce that same resoluteness in defence that they did at Wrexham and Grimsby, I absolutely think we are capable of scoring more than one at the other end. For me, just keep it whatever Chesterfield get, keep it not so clean sheet, not so clean sheet. And then, we ain't lost, have we? Which is, one of Jimmy Cyril's old adages. Let's just wrap up. Altrincham FA Trophy. We'll go to Chloe first. For a variety of reasons, you have been denied ever seeing Notts in the flesh at Wembley. I guess that's the pot of gold for the trophy, and disappointment last year, obviously. Hornchurch. Are you bothered about Saturday, or is it a sideshow for you?
I'm bothered personally. I know a lot of people are like, the league's the only important thing, and I get that. I get the whole argument about injuries, but you can go any game getting an injury. It's kind of one of them things. For me, like you say, Wembley is just so important. I know there's not a massive kind of monetary value, especially compared to the FA Cup, but realistically, apart from the league, this is the only thing Notts can win, and they can win it. We've come close twice now. And for me, it's just, we should never go into a game thinking it doesn't matter. And I know we'll probably see some squad rotation. That's a good thing. We want our kind of, you call them fringe players, the players that are sat on the bench. They're eager to play, all of them are. And I imagine the first 11 are even eager to play. So you kind of, you put a good shift in an FA Trophy game, that could mean you're in against Chesterfield. I mean, Vincent, I saw him in the cup game, and for me, that was like, this guy needs to be playing, and he's come in. I think it was the Tamworth game that he played, the home tie. I think that was where I saw him and thought, this guy's gonna add something to the team. And then the next game he was in, and I don't think he's really lost his position in the team since that. So it's massive for us to kind of see what these fringe players are all about. And everybody wants to win every game. I don't care what game it is. But from a fan's perspective, yeah, I don't want to lose to anyone, whether it's a cup or what. But yeah, I know there won't be kind of as many fans as we normally expect, with only the Pavis Open. But we've seen some of the best games that I've kind of seen at Notts. I look back at the Dagenham game, and that was a trophy. There was 2,000 fans in, and it's probably one of the best atmospheres after a goal I've ever seen, with the Michael Doyle one. I mean, so I love going to games like that, a Tuesday night game under the lights. So I'll be there, and it'll be an enjoyable one, definitely. But one of them, whereas even if we do play kind of these fringe players and some sub players, then you see the best out of them, and we should still be putting up a good fight against Altrincham, even if it's their best 11. So yeah, I'm expecting big things.
Where do you think, Stell, Ian and Notts will be prioritising Saturday's game?
I was going to put that out to you and say, the people watching, I was going to say,
I'll answer in a minute. Go on, you go first.
Well, it's a serious question. Who would you risk on Saturday night, 7:30 kickoff, that you are intending to start in what we've all said is a massive game against Chesterfield on Tuesday? Who would you risk starting in both of them games? And I think you'd want to protect. I mean, obviously, Ruben could play Saturday because he's suspended for Tuesday. But I think some of the players we spoke about at the start, the spine of the team, I don't think I'd be wanting to risk them. I'd obviously speak to them and see. Some lads like to play, some lads, but I don't think I'd be wanting to risk an injury to a Kyle Wootton, certainly a Matty Palmer, a Kyle Cameron. I'd be taking them out the firing line straight away. And then it comes down to who you've got, the squad players that are fit and available. We know there's one or two with illness or had have illnesses. So it's, there will be a lot of changing around. But I think the bigger question is, who do you risk playing in it that, touch wood, God forbid, you get a niggle, you get a knock, that it doesn't have to be a long one, but it rules that you've got no recovery time between a Saturday night and a Tuesday night. You've got very little time to get anything right. So, yeah, it's a real tough call, and that is about as good a way as sitting on the fence, I think, as there possibly is of answering a question.
All right, I'll see if I can infill. I would go, let's see who agrees and disagrees. In goal, Tiernan Brooks. Anyone disagree?
Yeah, I think you could play Slocum. I don't think that matter. But yeah, I wouldn't give the lad a game. Let's see. If he thinks he's good enough, yeah.
Yeah. Let's just work it out, the obvious ones. I'd have Cairo Mitchell up front.
Yeah.
I would work out a system that gets Eli Sam in.
Yeah.
Dion Kelly Evans.
Yeah. Assuming he's fit and right.
And well,
yeah.
I think he's had an illness.
You play Chickson, not been in at the minute.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Who else? I mean, I think in short, I would say, Stell, you'd hardly risk anyone. I agree with you.
Yeah.
It is a very short turnaround. And come Wednesday, what is the massively important result? Getting through in the next round of the trophy, or let's put it at least this way, not getting beat by Chesterfield. That's kind of on the Wednesday morning. You're not too worried about whether you're in the trophy or not. I would suggest you are concerned that you've not got beat at Chesterfield.
Yeah, agreed. But also, this isn't making changes to go, we'll forfeit the trophy game. Still going to win the game. Yeah. And then players are definitely good enough to beat Altrincham in the FA Trophy, who will probably make changes themselves.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the reason it's on a Saturday night, isn't it? Because they're part-time players.
Correct. Couldn't
play on a Friday night because they're doing jobs. There is no way we could put out a team. Well, no way, but there's no way we would put out a team with the intention of, don't worry about it. Chloe's dead right. You want to win the game. Make no mistake. There's a Wembley trip at the end of it, but with Chesterfield, what we're talking 72 hours later, you don't risk key components of your team. You plaster it up as best as you can. But again, you've got the quality in reserve that is more than good enough to win the game anyway. So it's not as if you're saying just stick the youth team out, doesn't matter what happens. You're still playing professionals, you're still wanting to win the game, but it is while protecting your crown jewels.
Yeah. I'll have a guess at 10 changes Saturday. I think Rodriguez will play, and I'd change the other 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd go, yeah.
I think
I'm just trying to think who else.
In terms of the starters.
I'm trying to think if there's anybody just come back in and maybe needs a bit of game time. I might play 45, but
I think the Forest lad might play just to get a game under his belt. But we'll see. Or at least come off the bench. I think we'll have a few on the bench, get some minutes in before Chesterfield, keep them fresh. But yeah, I think, like you say, you're going to see a lot of changes. But to reiterate, these players should be good enough to win the game, especially at home. So
yeah.
Without any hint of sarcasm, we put a full team out against Hornchurch and lost. So, I mean, there's not necessarily always automatic rhyme and reason to this, is there?
No, there never is. It's football, and it's Notts County and football, so the two automatically bring a bit of unknown factor. But yeah, I mean, I think 8, 9, 10 changes. I think that is what we're likely to see. because the priority is the league. But that's not to say we don't want to win the FA Trophy game. I was just seeing somebody there. Yeah, Michael Doyle might even get a run out in the middle of the park.
Interesting, wasn't it?
Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
Who knows? But it's good to know that, like, you do make 9-10 changes. I still would expect to see a strong Notts team. And as Chloe said, they're going to have to put all the other names on the bench, or however many subs we can have in the FA Trophy on the bench, because out of the pure numbers, you've got to have a bench. So, yeah, for me, the main thing is to go and try and win the Altrincham game, of course, but you want to come out of it with a clean bill of health. You don't want a key injury that could disrail your season, over and above, or something that means you've got to then go out into the loan market and bring, new additions in. Yeah.
There's the young lad as well, McGregor. I saw his dad was on social media. He played in a few of the pre-season games, and he looks about 4'3", but he looked all right. And apparently he's 16, 17. He's been training with the first team and getting a bit of a loan experience out in forget who the team is now. But why not at least give him 20, 30 minutes, see what they're made of. See what they're made of. We shall see. We'll all be there because you are. You're doing radio commentary, Stel?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not like we've got anything better to do on a Saturday night, the last Saturday before Christmas, is it? Nobody's got anything better. I can't claim my social life's that hectic, so yeah, I'll be there.
No, all three of us will be there. A word too on Thursday's podcast, which is one-on-one with Mark Ellis. Spent a good hour with him this afternoon, and it is very interesting, Stel. A lot of the things that you and I would talk about, it doesn't make them right, but his mentality, his mental strength. He was saying that he wants to carry on playing till he's 40, thinks he can, doesn't miss many games. That he's Kevin Nicholson, who we both know, would say a very quiet family man, very polite, very softly spoken. We even had his dog. He's got a 2-year-old cockapoo, so we've got the dog on the program as well. And gentle giant, but when he crosses the line, you just do anything. You just do what you put the persona on, and for 90 minutes, you're a different person. Were you a nice guy on and off the pitch, Stel, or you have your game mask on, your game face?
Oh, you've got to. God, you've absolutely got to. What you do on a football, that's your place of work. That's a bit of a cliche, ain't going into battle, but it is. That's not. You're not going out there going, I hope this gives off a good representation of myself. I hope people think I'm a nice chap, because I like I say, I use nice in a sort of derogatory manner about football. You don't want to be nice. I would love to be known as a nice person. People think, oh, he's a nice fellow, he's all right, yeah, off the pitch. But if people thought of me, well, he was nice to play against, so he was nice, he never gave any trouble, like, that's an absolute slap in the teeth. So absolutely, you have to change. If that's not, if you're naturally nasty and cutthroat and whatever, then fine, you don't need to change at all. But oh yeah, absolutely, you change, and it's professional. It's win at all cost. It is the most, not the most, but it's got to be one of the most cutthroat businesses, industries in the world. And just getting to make it at football, you develop that ruthlessness, that you realise what's at stake, and it can be taken away just like that. So you have to. You absolutely have to. I'm sure there are people that aren't, but you really have to. You wouldn't get anywhere if you didn't have that bit about you when you cross the line.
Talks a bit about his decision-making processes as well in terms of opting for EFL and Barrow. We talk about his goal scoring, Stel. He was a striker as a kid. You'll be unsurprised to know, till he was about 14, he was saying. He played with Charlie, didn't he, as well? Charlie, played in the same team, apparently. So, but yeah, I mean, he was, again, you talk about with Kyle Wootton. I think Kyle will be, if he is going to move on to pastures new next year, I think he'll be looking at bigger fish than maybe Barrow. But, we'll wait and see for that. But that is the lure of the Football League. And that's why it's so important
for Notts to get back there as soon as possible, because not only do you have the stadium, the fans, the history to entice people to come, players to come, but you've also got Football League status as well. To entice people now, you've got to get them to drop out the league. And as we've seen with Stockport, Chesterfield, Wrexham, you can do that, but you've got to weigh them in with massive amounts of money. So to try and save yourself having to do that, Notts as a club need to get themselves back in the Football League ASAP.
I think we all echo those sentiments. Ian Birchnell's Stell wasn't nice when he scored for Bradford against us at Wembley. Yeah, we all remember that one well. I don't think you were you born then, Chloe?
Go on, what year was it?
No?
96.
No.
Oh, dear. Right, on that note, I'm going to go with my Coco.
Just to make you feel old.
That's not my missus' name, by the way.
Oh, dear. Good retort. Chloe, thank you ever so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll all see each other on Saturday, because there probably won't be that many in the Pavis. I'm not quite sure what we'll be expecting, but we will all be there. Mark, as always, thank you for your time. Look forward to catching up on Saturday. I will see you there. To everyone that's contributed, listened and watched tonight and at any other point of the week, thank you for taking part. Thank you for your observations, questions and suggestions. And don't forget, we have up close and personal this man here, wrong side, Mark Ellis. It's a very good interview, definitely worth listening and watching. And we will also be coming up on Monday next week with a big one, a big preview of Chesterfield. Wait till you see who I've got as our Chesterfield guest. Speak to you all soon. Thank you very much again. Cheers, Chloe. Cheers, Stel. Cheers, everyone else. Bye-bye.
Cheers.